Using a throwaway for obvious reasons. This is gonna be long, but I promise it's worth it. I was 34 years old when my entire life went to hell. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic explosion. No, it happened in pieces. Small cracks forming where I didn't notice. Tiny shifts in behavior that I brushed off. And then, one day, everything collapsed, and I was left wondering how the hell I didn't see it coming. For context, I wasn't some billionaire CEO or a hotshot entrepreneur. I was just a regular guy in tech, working my ass off at a cybersecurity startup in Chicago. I'd been there since the early days, back when it was 5 of us crammed into a tiny office, living on caffeine and sheer desperation. The pay sucked, but they gave us stock options, and I figured, why not? Worst case, they'd be worthless. Best case? Well, we'll get to that part. Outside of work, I had a wife, Lauren, 32F, and 2 kids, Lily, 8F, and Max, 5M. If you had asked me back then, I'd have said we were happy. Not perfect, obviously. No marriage is, but good. Solid. The kind of life where the biggest fights were over stupid shit, like who forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer or why the Amazon boxes kept piling up at the door. Looking back, I was so fucking blind. Lauren and I met in the most cliché way possible. I was in a coffee shop, running on maybe 2 hours of sleep, barely functioning, and somehow managed to knock over an entire latte onto her MacBook. She looked ready to murder me on the spot, and honestly, I wouldn't have blamed her. I panicked, offered to pay for a new one, and ended up maxing out my credit card buying her a replacement. I figured she'd take the laptop and never speak to me again. Instead, she laughed. And just like that, one bad decision turned into drinks, which turned into dates, which turned into marriage, a mortgage, and 2 kids before I even knew what hit me. For a while, it was good. Then Travis and Jessica moved in next door. Travis was one of those fitness guys, the kind who never wore a shirt unless it was absolutely necessary. Always posting workout selfies. Always talking about grind set mentality and pushing yourself to the limit. I tried to like him. Really, I did. But there was something about him that rubbed me the wrong way. Lauren, on the other hand, she thought he was amazing. It's not just about looks, she told me one night, scrolling through his Instagram. He's really disciplined. Like, his mindset is insane. I didn't know what the hell that was supposed to mean. Jessica, his wife, was a corporate lawyer. She worked crazy hours, so she wasn't around much. Travis, on the other hand, was home all the time, running his online fitness coaching business out of their garage gym. And at first, I didn't think anything of it. Lauren had always been into fitness, and after having 2 kids, she wanted to get back in shape. So when she started working out with Travis, I figured fine, whatever. Then things started getting weird. First, it was little changes. She started dressing differently, expensive leggings, tight crop tops, always in makeup, even though she used to work out bare-faced. She'd come home flushed and smiling, practically buzzing with energy. Then came the food obsession. Suddenly, everything had to be organic, grass-fed, keto-friendly. Our grocery bill doubled overnight. The pantry looked like a GNC exploded. And then there was her phone. Lauren had never been a tech person. She'd leave her phone lying around, forget it in random places. But now, it was glued to her hand, always tilted away from me, always on silent. And one night, when I casually reached for it to check the time, she yanked it away like I'd just grabbed a loaded gun. "Jesus, Jake," she snapped. "Can I have some privacy?" That was the first time I felt it. That gut instinct. The one that whispers, something isn't right. But I ignored it. Because I trusted my wife. God, I was an idiot. The late nights started soon after. She'd be out for hours at a time, claiming she was running errands, or meeting up with the girls. Except, she never mentioned who these girls were. One night, I came home early, walked into the kitchen, saw a hotel charge on our credit card statement. A hotel 20 minutes from our house. I felt sick, but instead of confronting her, I did what every dumbass in denial does. I convinced myself there was an explanation. Maybe she booked it for a friend. Maybe it was a mistake. So I let it go. Until Max, our 5-year-old son, dropped a bomb on me. I was tucking him into bed when he looked up at me with those big, sleepy eyes and said, "Mommy and Travis had a sleepover." I went completely still. What? I asked, forcing my voice to stay calm. Last night, he mumbled, rubbing his eyes. You were at work. Mommy said not to tell. I felt my stomach drop through the floor. That was it. That was the moment. The second I knew my marriage was fucking dead. The next day, I left work early, parked down the street, waited, and sure enough, Travis' garage door opened and Lauren walked out. Not sweaty, not looking like she just had a brutal workout. Hair damp, makeup perfect, wearing different clothes than she left in. I filmed everything, and then I drove straight to a lawyer. I didn't tell Lauren what I knew. I played it cool, pretended everything was fine while I gathered evidence. My lawyer told me to be patient, to wait until we could serve her the papers on my terms. But Lauren and Travis? They beat me to it. The next week, I was at work when I got a message from my boss. Hey, Jake, can you come by HR real quick? I didn't think much of it. Probably some routine paperwork. I walked into the office and saw two cops waiting for me. Jacob Collins? I frowned. Yeah. One of them pulled out handcuffs. You're under arrest for domestic violence. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because what the fuck? Then they cuffed me. In front of my entire office. And just like that, I lost everything. I spent 48 hours in jail before my brother bailed me out. 48 hours of cold concrete, shitty food, and the constant, gnawing fear that my kids thought I was a monster. That Lauren had one. When I got out, I wasn't just unemployed. I was homeless. Lauren had filed a restraining order while I was locked up. I couldn't go near the house. Couldn't see my kids. Couldn't even grab my own fucking clothes. I had to sleep on my brother's couch, wearing the same jeans I'd been arrested in, while my entire life collapsed around me. I tried calling Lauren once. Just once. She didn't answer. Instead, I got a text. Don't contact me again. You need help, Jake. The kids and I deserve to feel safe. I stared at the message, my hands shaking. She really did it. She really fucking did it. I thought about replying, saying something. But what was the point? Instead, I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall, then clattered to the floor, screen cracked. My brother, Mark, just watched from the kitchen, arms crossed. Feel better? I let out a hollow laugh. Not even a little. He sighed, walking over and handing me a beer. You're gonna fight this, right? Of course I'm gonna fight this. I took the bottle but didn't drink. My stomach was a mess. I just don't know how. Mark sat down across from me, rubbing a hand over his jaw. Greg's already on it. He says we need to disprove her claims before the custody hearing. Get character witnesses, financial records, anything that shows she's full of shit. I nodded. But the truth? I didn't know if I even had a chance. Lauren played this perfectly. She had fake bruises, fake witness statements, fake everything. I was already guilty in the court of public opinion. People I had grilled burgers with at neighborhood BBQs were now saying they'd always suspected something was off. Even some of my coworkers, people who knew how much I had sacrificed for my family, weren't reaching out. Nobody wanted to be associated with an abuser. And the worst part? My kids believed it. At the first supervised visitation, Lily wouldn't even look at me. Max hid behind the social worker, clinging to her leg like I was some kind of boogeyman. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, he whispered, "Why did you hurt Mommy?" I felt my heart fucking break. I dropped to my knees in front of them, my voice barely steady. I didn't, buddy. I promise. Max just shook his head. Mommy showed us pictures. My throat was dry. Pictures? Lily finally spoke. Of her bruises. Her voice was so quiet. She cried when she told us. She said you were sick, and that's why we can't come home. I had never wanted to scream so badly in my life. Instead, I swallowed the rage. Because I couldn't afford to lose it. I just looked my daughter in the eyes and said, I would never, ever hurt you or your brother. And I never hurt Mommy. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her face. And that hurt more than anything else. The visit ended early. The social worker made some notes. And then I walked back to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and stared at the steering wheel for a long, long time. I had lost my kids, my job, my home. I was at rock bottom. And then, Just when I thought my life was completely over, everything changed because that little tech startup I helped build, it got acquired by Amazon for billions. And suddenly, I was worth $49.4 million. I was sitting in my car, parked outside a shitty 7-Eleven, when I got the email. It popped up between an Uber Eats promo and a spam message about winning a free cruise. I almost ignored it, but then I saw the subject line. Acquisition finalized. Employee stock disbursement. My stomach flipped. I opened the email, scanned the numbers, and then I froze. $49,400,000. I blinked. My brain short-circuited. I did the math 3 times just to be sure, and then I laughed. A wild, disbelieving laugh that bubbled out of me so fast it almost scared me. I laughed until my hands were shaking, until my breath hitched, until I suddenly felt violently sick. I threw open my car door and threw up all over the pavement. Some college kid walking by stopped mid-step. Dude, you okay? I wiped my mouth on my sleeve, still gasping for air. Yeah, I croaked. I think I just became a millionaire. He looked at me like I was insane. Fair enough. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. The first thing I did was call Greg. Tell me I'm not hallucinating, I said the second he picked up. Depends. Are you on drugs? Greg. He chuckled. I saw the news. It's real, man. Congrats. I ran a hand through my hair. Lauren's gonna find out, isn't she? Oh, absolutely, he said. I'd give it 12 hours. It took less than 6. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. I woke up the next morning to a text from Lauren. The first one since she had me arrested. Hey, I've been thinking a lot about us. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, disgust curling in my gut. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she did. Just straight to pretending we were still a family. I took a screenshot, sent it to Greg, and ignored it. A few hours later, I went to grab coffee. And that's when I ran into Travis. Of course. He was standing in line at my usual spot, dressed in his best, casual businessman look, button-up shirt, no more sleeveless hoodies. He looked at me, smiled like we were old friends, and took a step closer. Hey, man. His tone was light, like none of this had happened. Long time, huh? I just stared at him. He cleared his throat. Look, I get it. Things got messy. Messy. I felt my fingernails dig into my palm. But Lauren's been real torn up about everything, he continued. She misses you. The kids miss you. I exhaled slowly through my nose. Walk away, Travis. He blinked. Dude, come on. I took a step forward, lowered my voice. If you say one more word to me, I will ruin you. Travis hesitated. Then, for the first time ever, he looked nervous. He opened his mouth, closed it, and then he walked the hell away. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. I played it cool for 3 months. Kept working my Uber shifts. Kept living like I was broke. Lauren, meanwhile, had been busy. She filed for emergency spousal support. Claimed I owed her back child support based on my new wealth. Even tried to modify custody, saying my sudden fortune made me a flight risk. She thought she was about to cash out. And then came the court date. She walked in looking pathetic. Messy bun, plain dress, no makeup. The struggling single mom act. She even brought the kids, which was against court orders. Her lawyer, a greasy, overpriced asshole, stood up first. He painted a picture of a devoted wife who sacrificed her own career to support her husband. Said she deserved half of everything because her emotional labor contributed to my success. Then he brought up the domestic violence allegations. Tried to frame me as a volatile tech bro who got lucky and might run off with my millions. Lauren kept stealing glances at me, watching for a reaction. I gave her nothing. Then Greg stood up, smoothed his tie, took his time, and then he said, Your Honor, I'd like to present some new evidence. And we played the security camera footage. Lauren sneaking up to my house while I was out, trying to get inside. Lauren sitting in Travis' car, rehearsing her emotional speech. Lauren planting fake letters in my mailbox. Letters where she wrote about being afraid of me, dated months before she ever made the accusations. And then the final nail, footage of Lauren and Travis in their garage, using makeup to fake bruises. Taking pictures. Practicing her scared wife face. The courtroom was silent. Lauren went pale. Her lawyer started scrambling. Your Honor, my client may have been confused about certain events. The judge shut that down fast. Domestic violence charges? Thrown out. Emergency spousal support? Denied. Custody? Modified immediately. Lauren lost everything. But the best part? Greg wasn't finished. Because Lauren and Travis weren't just scamming me. They had done this before. To 2 other men. And thanks to Jessica, Travis' ex-wife, who had receipts for days, the judge referred their case to the DA for fraud charges. By the time I walked out of that courtroom, I wasn't just a free man. I was a father with full custody of my kids. And Lauren and Travis? They were on their way to prison. Lauren and Travis were arrested 2 weeks later. I was sitting in my kitchen, in my house, where my kids were finally sleeping in their own rooms, when Greg called me. They got them, he said, sounding way too satisfied for a lawyer. Feds picked them up this morning. I exhaled, gripping the edge of the counter. For what exactly? Fraud, perjury, conspiracy, plus a handful of financial crimes. Turns out Travis had been running some sketchy side hustles. Money laundering, tax evasion, real dumbass behavior. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. So how long are we talking? For Lauren? 18 years. No parole for the first 10. I sat down heavily, rubbing a hand over my face. 18 years. I wasn't sure what I expected. Part of me thought she'd get off easy. Maybe a slap on the wrist, a few years at most. But 18? That was almost 2 decades. Max would be an adult by the time she got out. And Travis? Greg chuckled. 10 years minimum. Why less? Because he flipped on her. I barked out a laugh. Of course he did. Greg sighed. Yeah. Claimed she was the mastermind, that he was pressured into everything. I shook my head, smiling despite myself. Coward. Yep. But hey, worked out for you. Worked out. I stared at the fridge, my eyes landing on a crayon drawing Max had taped there last week. Me, him, and Lily holding hands. No, Lauren. Yeah. It worked out. Hashtag. I didn't tell the kids right away. Lily had finally started smiling again. Genuine, real smiles, not the forced ones I used to get when she was trying to be polite. Max had stopped asking if he had to go back to Mommy's. He had stopped waiting for her to show up. They were healing, and I wasn't about to rip that open again. So when they asked where Lauren was, I just told them she had to go away for a while. Lily didn't ask for details. She just nodded and went back to her book. Max hesitated, picking at the hem of his shirt. Will she come back? I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. Not for a long time, buddy. He frowned. Is that bad? I knelt down in front of him, resting a hand on his shoulder. No, I said softly. It's not bad. He studied my face for a long moment. Then he nodded, like he had decided to believe me. And that was the end of it. No tears. No tantrums. Just a quiet, unspoken relief. Hashtag. The house finally felt like home again. Lily painted her room purple, covering the walls in glow-in-the-dark stars. Max got a Minecraft-themed gaming setup, complete with a creeper-shaped beanbag. And me? I installed a security system that made Fort Knox look like a joke. Not because I thought Lauren or Travis would come after us, but because the kids needed to feel safe. Some nights, Lily still woke up crying, asking if I was going to leave. Max still had moments where he'd cling to my arm like a lifeline, but they were getting better. And so was I. Hashtag. Then, 6 months later, I got a letter. Not from Lauren. From Jessica. And what she had to say changed everything. Jessica's letter sat on my kitchen counter for 2 days before I opened it. I wasn't sure why I hesitated. Maybe I was just done with surprises. Maybe I didn't want to hear anything that could drag me back into the mess I had finally pulled myself out of. But eventually, curiosity won. I sat down at the table, took a deep breath, and opened the envelope. Jacob, I hope this letter doesn't come as too much of a shock. I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but I figured you had the right to know. It's about Lauren. I exhaled sharply and kept reading. She's been trying to appeal her sentence. I don't know if your lawyer told you, but she's been claiming that she was coerced. That Travis forced her into everything, That she was a victim, just like the men she helped destroy. I don't buy it. And neither do the feds. But I thought you should be aware, because if by some miracle she gets a retrial, she's going to try and go after you again. She doesn't have much else to lose. Stay prepared. Jessica. I set the letter down. My jaw clenched so tight it ached. Of course. Of course Lauren couldn't just take her punishment and disappear from my life. I called Greg immediately. He picked up on the second ring. You heard anything about this? I asked, skipping the pleasantries. Greg sighed. Yeah, I was going to tell you, but honestly, there's not much to worry about. Her appeal is a long shot at best. Even if she gets a hearing, the evidence against her is rock solid. I let out a slow breath, nodding even though he couldn't see me. I don't want to deal with this again, I admitted. You won't, Greg assured me. And even if, by some miracle, she gets out early, you have full custody. She has zero legal claim to the kids. She signed away any rights the second she got convicted. That part made me feel better. Still, I spent the next few weeks feeling uneasy, watching the mail, checking security cameras more often than usual. But the appeal never went through. Lauren lost. And just like that, she was gone. For good this time. Hashtag. Life moved on. Max started playing soccer. Lily joined the science club at school. I took them on a trip to Disney World. Just the three of us. No stress. No drama. For the first time in years, things felt normal. One night, after I tucked the kids into bed, I stood outside on the back porch, a cold beer in my hand, just breathing it all in. The silence. The peace. The simple, undeniable fact that I had survived. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I was looking forward to finding out.